Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammāṃ Saṅghāṃ namasami. So tonight, for a change of pace, I thought I'd do some reading from one of the Buddhist texts, canonical text. It's called the Connected Discourses of the Buddha, which is the Saṃyutta Nikāya, and it's translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi. So this is the direct teaching from the Buddha, and just at least give you a flavor of what the Buddha was talking about. And usually it's about this body and mind. The Buddha divided this mind and body complex into different things, but tonight one of the focus is on the Āyatana, which is the sixth sense base. So he divided the body and mind complex into the ear, the sense base, the ear, the eye, the ear, the nose, tongue, body, and mind consciousness. Yeah, so that's how we know the world, but also that's how suffering arises if we're not careful. Yeah. So it's in the Connected Discourses of the Buddha, is on the chapter of the six sense bases. 5 senses of the body plus the mind. Okay. Okay, so the first short teaching focusing on the 6 sense bases. Thus have I heard, on one occasion the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove at Natapindika's Park. There the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus thus, "Bhikkhus, Venerable Sir," those bhikkhu replied. The Blessed One said this, "Bhikkhus, the I is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering is not self. What is not self should be seen as it really is, with correct wisdom. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself." And he goes to the other sense bases. The ear is impermanent, the nose is impermanent, the tongue is impermanent, the body is impermanent, the mind is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering is non-self. What is non-self should be seen as it really is, with correct wisdom. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. Seeing thus, bhikkhus, the instructed noble disciple experiences revulsion towards the eye, revulsion towards the ear, revulsion towards the nose, revulsion towards the tongue, revulsion towards the body, revulsion towards the mind. Experiencing revulsion, he becomes dispassionate. And through dispassion, his mind is liberated. When it's liberated, there comes the knowledge. It is liberated. He understands, destroy this birth. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There's no more coming into any state of being. Okay, so that's the first teaching on the 6 sense basis. So obviously he's pointing out the fact that it is impermanent, that causes suffering, and that is non-self. And it's only through seeing with correct wisdom. So it's not through just superficial book understanding, but it's seeing through with wisdom that you see clearly that is not yours. And then through seeing clearly, the mind experiences revulsion, which is like nibbida. You move away, you're not so attached to it. And when you're not attached, this is where liberation comes from. It's from non-attachment. Okay. The next one, he focuses on that as well, between seeing clearly and before his enlightenment, is the title of the suttas. As Savatthi bhikkhus, before my enlightenment, while I was still a bodhisattva, not yet fully enlightened, it occurred to me, what is the gratification, what is the danger, what is the escape in the case of the eye? What is the gratification, what is the danger, what is the escape in case of the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind? Then bhikkhus, it occurred to me, the pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on the eye, that is the gratification in the eye. That the eye is impermanent, suffering, subject to change, that is the danger in the eye. And the removal and abandonment of desire and lust for the eye, that is the escape from the eye. So it is we get pleasure from it. That's how we get tied to it. That's where craving arises. So it's through experiencing pleasure with the eye that we become attached to it. But that's the reason why we get some happiness. We get some sense happiness from seeing beautiful things, hearing good music, tasting good food. That is the gratification in it. But the danger in it is these things changes. The eye is not permanent, it changes. You can't see so much anymore with my glasses, as you can tell. As you get older, you lose your eye sense base. The taste doesn't taste so much anymore. So the fact that they change, that's where the danger comes in. It's the same with the other sense bases. The pleasure and the joy that arise in dependence on the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. This is the gratification in the mind. That the mind is impermanent, suffering, and subject to change. That is the danger in the mind. And the removal and the abandonment of desire and lust for the mind. This is the escape from the mind. So long, bhikkhus, as I did not directly know as they really are the gratification, the danger, and the escape. In the case of these 6 internal sense bases, I did not claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed, perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas, Mara, and Brahma. In this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and humans. But when I directly knew all this as it really is, then I claimed to have awakened to the unsurpassed, perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas and humans. The knowledge and vision arose in me. Unshakable is my liberation of mind. This is my last birth. Now there is no more renewed existence. So it's only through clearly understanding the 6 sense bases, the eye, ear, tongue, nose, body, and mind, that we can transcend suffering, that we can awaken to the truth. Okay, and it's also knowing clearly. You have to know the gratification, obviously the happiness that comes from sense pleasure, of eating good food, of having nice touch to the body, of hearing nice things, seeing nice things. That is the gratification. But also the danger is these things changes. And we also have to know the escape from them, which is the removal of that desire from having nice things, that we become fully awakened to the truth. Yeah, so this is what he speaks to. He points to that when we like something, we delight in something, we have to be careful. But that comes attachment. And with attachment comes suffering. So Buddha in Suttas points out delight. Bhikkhus, one who seeks delight in the eye, seeks delight in suffering. One who seeks delight in suffering, I say, is not free from suffering. One who seeks delight in the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, the mind, seeks delight in suffering. One who seeks delight in suffering, I say, is not free from suffering. And one who does not seek delight in the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind, does not seek delight in suffering. One who does not seek delight in suffering, I said, is free from suffering. Okay. And this is like I said, this theme is always around the six sense basis. And this is another piece take on seclusion, what it means to be a forest dweller. At Savatthi, then the Venerable Migajala approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and said to him, Venerable Sir, it is said, alone dweller, alone dweller. In what way, Venerable Sir, is one a lone dweller? In what way is one dwelling with a partner? There are, Migajala, forms cognizable by the eye that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, delight arises. And when there is delight, there is infatuation. And when there is infatuation, there is bondage. Bound by the fetter of delight, Migajala, a bhikkhu is called one dwelling with a partner. So even if he's by himself, obviously he has craving, then he has a partner. There are Migajala, then that's just the eye. There are sounds cognizable by the ear, odors cognizable by the nose, taste cognizable by the tongue, tactile objects cognizable by the body, and mental phenomena cognizable by the mind. There are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, he is called one dwelling with a partner. Migajala, even though a bhikkhu who dwells, thus resorts to a forest and groves, to remote lodgings where there are few sounds and little noise, desolate, hidden and empty of people, appropriate for seclusion, he is still called one dwelling with a partner. For what reason? Because craving is his partner, and he has not abandoned it. Therefore, he is one called dwelling with a partner. Okay. There are Migajala, forms cognizable by the eye that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, does not remain holding to them, delight ceases. When there is no delight, there is no infatuation. When there is no infatuation, there is no bondage. Released from the fetter of delight, Migajala, a bhikkhu is called a lone dweller. So Migajala, even though a bhikkhu who dwells, thus lives in a vicinity of a village, associating with bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, with male and female lay followers, with kings and royal ministers, with sectarian teachers and their disciples, he is still called a lone dweller. For what reason? Because craving is his partner, and he has abandoned it. Therefore, he is called a lone dweller. So if a monk or a nun who lives in the city gives teaching all day long, he counsels people, he goes to dana at people's houses, and he gives teaching, he goes on teaching tours. If he's abandoned the craving, he's abandoned the bondage, then he's still called a lone dweller. Okay? But with anything, there is a balance. Because the Buddha said sometimes close association with people is a distraction to the mind. It's hard to develop concentration, even for enlightened beings, if they associate too much with lay activities. Okay. Another one is Buddha talks about restraint in the case of for the sixth sense basis. Bhikkhus, I will teach you restraint and non-restraint. Listen to this. And how, bhikkhu, is there non-restraint? There are bhikkhus, form cognizable by the eye, that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, he should understand this. I am declining away from wholesome states, for this has been called decline by the Blessed One. So there are bhikkhus, sounds cognizable by the ear, and so on, and mental phenomena cognizable by the mind, that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, he welcomes them, remains holding to them, he should understand this thus. I am declining away from wholesome states, for this is being called decline by the Blessed One. Such bhikkhu is non-restraint. And how, bhikkhu, is there restraint? There are bhikkhus, form cognizable by the eye, that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, and does not remain holding to them, he should understand this thus. I am not declining away from wholesome states, for this has been called non-decline by the Blessed One. So it's not so much as what you do, but it's your mental reaction to your sense world, whether you long for the pleasure that arises from the sense base, or whether you are equanimous to it. You're not longing for it. You just experience, allow them to arise, and then fade away. But if you're delighting in them, longing for them, then you're bonded to them. You're declining, and then craving arises. With craving, you're declining away from wholesome states. And this is also about fully understanding. Bhikkhus, without direct knowing and fully understanding the I, without developing dispassion towards it and abandoning it, one is incapable of destroying suffering. Without directly knowing, fully understanding the ear, the mind, without developing dispassion towards it and abandoning it, one is incapable of destroying suffering. But by directly knowing and fully understanding the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind, by developing dispassion towards it and abandoning it, one is capable of destroying suffering. So it's interesting what the Buddha points out. Suffering arises internally. And when he talks about understanding, it's not about something out there. It's not understanding, how the law of physics works, understanding, everything about the universe. So understanding that, it's just understanding how your sixth sense bases work, and seeing clearly how through your attachment to them, to your longing for them, develops, that causes bondage, that causes suffering for yourself. So it's always turning inward, this body and mind complex. Looking inward when the Buddha encourages us. It's not always, the truth is not out there floating around. That the more we know about the universe, the more we know about the science and the oceans, the freer we get. It's only truly understanding, in this context, the sixth sense basis. Truly clearly understanding how suffering arises, how we delight, we get attached to it, the pleasant feeling, then we're creating suffering for ourselves. Okay. The last one is how we get caught up in Mara snare. Mara is the eternal tempter. It's called the Buddhist version of like the devil, but not so evil, more mischievous. So he likes to keep people in the samsara. So you become enlightened, or you're on your way to become enlightened, he or she appears to try to distract you. If you're a fearful character, he will manifest as a giant beast to scare you. If you're a greedy character, he manifests as a beautiful lady to try to tempt you, to try to shake you from your calm state of mind. Okay, the world and the courts of sensual pleasure, Mara snare. Bhikkhus, they are a form cognizable by the eye that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, he is called a bhikkhu who has entered Mara's lair, who has come under Mara's control. Mara's snare has been fastened to him, so that he is bound by the bondage of Mara, and the evil one can do with him as he wishes. There are bhikkhus, sounds cognizable by the ear, sounds, the taste, the body, and the mental objects cognizable by the mind that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. The bhikkhu seeks delight in them. The evil one can do with him as he wishes. And then the opposite is also true. There are bhikkhus, form cognizable by the eye, that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. The bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, does not remain holding to them. He is called bhikkhu who has not entered Mara's lair, who has not come under Mara's control. Mara's snare has been unfastened from him, so that he is not bound by the bondage of Mara, and the evil one cannot do with him as he wishes. So there are bhikkhus, sounds cognizable by the ear, and mental phenomena cognizable by the mind that are also desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, the evil one cannot do with him as he wishes. So to be free from Mara, to free from the tempter, the tempter only comes in the guise of your sense pleasure, of what you see, you hear, smell, taste, touch, or visualize with the mind. And if you are drawn to that, you seek delight in that, then you are seeking delight in suffering. Then you open yourself up for Mara's temptation. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. This is from advice from for young monks and practitioners. On one occasion, the Venerable Sariputta was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove and at the Pindika's Park. Then a certain bhikkhu approached the Venerable Sariputta and exchanged greetings with him. When they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side and said to the Venerable Sariputta, "Friend Sariputta, a bhikkhu who was my co-resident has given up the training and returned to the lower life," which means he was a monk and then he changed his mind and became a layperson again. And this one wants to know what was the reason for that. So it says, so Sariputta responds, "So it is, friend. When one does not guard the doors of the sense faculties, is immoderate in eating, is not devoted to wakefulness, that a bhikkhu who does not guard the doors of the sense faculties, who is immoderate in eating, and who is not devoted to wakefulness, will maintain all his life the complete and pure holy life. That is impossible. But friend, that a bhikkhu who guards the doors of his sense faculties, who is moderate in eating, who is devoted to wakefulness, will maintain all his life the complete and pure holy life. This is possible. And then he goes on, how do you guard the sense doors? Obviously, you'll see it's very similar to the other ones. And how, friend, does one guard the doors of the sense faculties? Here, having seen form with the eye, the bhikkhu does not grasp its signs and features. Since if he left the eye faculty unrestrained, evil, unwholesome states of wanting and irritation might invade him. He practiced the way of his restraint. He guards the eye faculty. He undertakes the restraint of the eye faculty. It's the same. So he goes with the eye, having heard sound with the ear, having smelt an odor with the nose, having savored a taste with the tongue, having felt a tactile object with the body, having cognized a mental phenomena with the mind. Bhikkhu does not grasp as its signs and features. Since if he left the mind faculty unrestrained, evil, unwholesome states of liking and disliking might invade him. He practiced the way of his restraint. He guards the mind faculty, undertakes restraint of the mind faculty. It is in this way, friend, that one guards the doors of the sense faculties. Then how is one moderate in eating? Here, reflecting carefully, a bhikkhu takes food neither for amusement nor for intoxication, nor for the sake of physical beauty and attractiveness, but only for the support and maintenance of this body, for ending discomfort, for assisting in the holy life. Considering, thus I shall terminate the old feeling and not arouse a new feeling, that I shall be healthy and blameless and live in comfort. It is in this way, friend, that one is moderate in eating. So when you're eating just for to sustain the body for one day. Not eating just for fun, not eating just for pleasure, just eating as a form of kind of nourishment. And no more, no less. So as you can see, he's not advocating fasting all the time. It's just, the body also needs a certain amount of nutrients. So in order to keep that going, that way you can practice for long term. And you eat in the way that is just feeding that nourishment. And this is where you get the 4 hours. You hear a lot of monks talk about the 4 hours sleep. And this is from the sutta. But with anything, you have to kind of adapt to your situation. But this is from the Buddha does talk about in several places about the resting of 4 hours in the evening. But this is when one is a monk and one is meditating a lot. And he divides the night into 3 watches. The first watch is between 6 and 10. The second watch of the night is between 10 and 2. And the third watch is to 2 to 6 in the morning. And how, friend, is one devoted to wakefulness? Here, during the day, while walking back and forth and sitting, a bhikkhu purifies his mind of obstructive states. The first watch of the night, while walking back and forth and sitting, he purifies his mind of obstructive states. In the middle watch of the night, he lies down on his right side in the lion's posture, with one foot overlapping the other, mindful and clearly comprehending, after noting in his mind the idea of rising. So generally before he goes to sleep, he would just sleep on the right-hand side, but it also makes a note what time to wake up. So back then they don't have alarm clocks, so you just have to use your mindfulness to see, okay, I'm going to wake up in about 4 hours. So he's kind of program his mind. So before he falls asleep, he notes in his mind the idea of rising, what time he's going to rise. After rising, in the last watch of the night, while walking back and forth and sitting, he purifies his mind of obstructive states. It is in this way, friend, that one is devoted to wakefulness. Therefore, friend, you should train yourself thus. We will guard the doors of the sense faculties, will become moderate in eating, will be devoted to wakefulness. Thus, friend, should you train yourself. And that's the thing about the Buddhist training. It's not so much you do outside, it's just how you relate to the experience, how you relate to your sense pleasure, how you relate to things that come to your sense doors. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch with the body, and what you think about. And what you do all throughout during the day is to purify any unwholesome state. So anything unwholesome, you try to develop, you try to let those unwholesome state go and try to steer the mind towards wholesome states of calm, of forgiveness, of compassion, of stillness, of energy. So it's just, and doing that throughout the day. So it's, you can do that when you're doing your chores, do that when you're sitting meditation, formal meditation, or you can do that, walking backwards and forwards in the monastery as well. So that is the chapter on the six sense bases and what the Buddha has to say regarding sense restraint and how understanding how attachment can come from the six sense bases. And truly seeing that, you see that, then dispassion happens, then the mind lets go. So it's always about clearly seeing. And when you clearly see something, it's not just an idea, it's not something you read from the book, but clear seeing comes from a calm mind, comes from a samadhi. It's through calming the mind, you see clearly. And when you see things clearly, the mind lets go. It moves away from unwholesome states, it moves away from delighting in sense pleasure, because there's another happiness. Yeah. And it's cultivating the restraint, understanding the six sense bases, that we will find a way to transcend suffering. It's always said over and over again. And in this case, it applies to the six sense bases, but the understanding applies to other teachings that he always says. It could be, the five khandhas, the five group of graspings, and it could be, many things. But it's always truly understanding this body and mind complex that we can relinquish suffering. So I offer that for your reflection tonight. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi.